Hey everybody, it's your pal Drew Geraci, a longtime comic book industry veteran, and much longer time fanboy, and I'm still a fanboy. So let's get started with Marvel Premiere, which was a great book. It had basically first issues of the tryout books, or they took characters that were from other comics and gave them a solo adventure. But the trick of it was, the downside was the sales would waver. And I like some of the stuff Marvel Premiere came out. Like, for example, issue 29 and 30 had the Liberty Legion, which crossed over with the Invaders. And then after that, I think 31 had, what was that guy's name? Wood God. Ugh, horrible character. And then I skipped this because it just wasn't, to me, it wasn't a Marvel comic. You know, it didn't have all that, that sheen to it, the house style. But I bought this recently on eBay, and I got it's in fantastic shape. It is. It may not go in my spinner rack. It's such fantastic shape. Well, this guy's a bounty hunter, intergalactic bounty hunter. I don't know how popular those were. I don't, like in comics, maybe they were in novels and such. But, this was different. And after 40 some years, I'm finally reading it. And I enjoyed it. I think this is what got Howard Chaykin the job of doing Star Wars. Because this came out in, October 1976. That's the cover date, but the book actually came out 3 months prior. That's just the way they did it at the time. So the comics would theoretically stay on the shelves longer, and that never worked. And they did it for years and years and years. And finally, they decided to start getting a little closer to the actual release date. So this is actually written and drawn by Howard Chaykin. Starts off, bitch slapping this guy. Get 'em, boys. And story and art by Howard Chaykin. How about that? And I think this might have been one of his first written books. I think he did something for Star Reach magazine, which was Mike Friedrich's independent comic that had a lot of creators do stuff that wasn't Marvel that they could own, and there was a lot of top names. So just really neat fooling around with stuff. And then we get some exposition on what's going on. It's really kind of... Here's my problem with it. It's one issue, and it needed a little more to breathe. If it was like a double-sized issue or a one-shot annual, which they never really did back then. Because right now, there's too little for me to fully pick up. But, all you gotta know is he's a badass. And I love Howard Chaykin's art. By the way, next year, like in August or October, they're going to do a collection of Howard Chaykin Marvel stories. They're going to have one of these. They're going to have a Dominic Fortune and some other stuff that he's done over the years. And I love it. So, really cool stuff. His origin is sort of, let me see. He has an android falcon, which is like his scout. He goes out ahead and shows him what needs to be seen. An android falcon, isn't that a rather odd choice for a pet? Ulysses is far more than a pet, Robin. 7 years ago, I was a rigger. My nervous system wired into a ship. On patrol, I was attacked by hostile pursuits. I looked in all directions, but the only escape was through a core of the Nova. Running, escaping, if you wish. My solar sails were bombarded by the star's energy. It flowed through the sockets at my wrists and spine, incinerating my nervous system, my senses, my memory. A neutral ship picked me up. Doctors saw me and gave me up immediately, but the Technos, bless their ticking hearts, gave me Ulysses, an artificial nervous system telepathically linked to me. So that's kind of cool. It's it's also a little bit like Star-Lord in reverse. So look at these ads. Wow. Pretty neat. Pretty neat. Really takes me back. So you know, he does faces so well. And the birds watching them. He's probably recording them for a naughty video. Who knows? You know, knowing the stuff that Howard Chaykin would come out later with American Flag and then Black Kiss, I wouldn't put it past him to like make a hint about that. So, here we go. Give me a second. I have spectroscopic reports of what most of you already know, that the vast mineral wealth beneath Storm King's glacial crust. Gentlemen, listen. Tri-planets will give you a new Terranizers in 5 years. You'll have oceans, grazing, land, livestock in the name of civilization. Hell, what's the price tag? Bring back the girl. It was sort of like a... what do you call those things? Like a party, kind of like a, what do they call it? When somebody's running for elected office, they have guests that entertain people. So, I read this, and it is still tricky. I'll have to read it like a third time because it's different. It's got a lot of promise. A lot of promise. And if nothing else, buy it for the art. Icy. There was a stop and go near us that had ices. So, a lot of cool stuff going on. 2001. I had no interest with that as a kid because I was a superhero addict, but I love it now. It's great. So, la 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 la. Hang on. Come on, why you? Oh, it's at the end. So it's good. I mean, you may get more out of it than I did, and I plead that I'm ignorant of how the story unfolded, but it's definitely worth a try. So, okay, now we're going back into my expertise. Vigilante number 3, Adrian Chase, who was a former district attorney, and he turned vigilante when his family was killed, when his apartment was bombed, and it killed his whole family. This is issue 3. Come on, focus, you bleppity blep. I'm trying not to cuss. Well, the cover is fantastic. It's Keith Pollard penciling and inking himself. But it's as worthy as a George Perez cover. I mean, look at Cyborg, and you can see this guy's face. There's so much going on in the foliage. And what's neat is there's a holder for nunchucks in the back. And one thing you'll notice too is even though his legs are kind of like the same shape, his arms are not like his one arm's touching there, and this one's a little away. So that's a good thing to do, because I hate when both the arms and the legs are symmetrical because it looks contrived. Because people don't stand in a perfect right-left image. And Pablo Marcos is inking Keith Pollard layouts. Marv Wolfman's the writer and editor. And there you go. So Cyborg is trying to protect this guy who Vigilante's trying to kill. This guy, he was involved with a lot of really, really bad things, that involved families and children and stuff, like just an evil guy. And he is only getting a year in prison because he only got caught on an illegal weapons charge. So Vigilante wants to take him out, but Cyborg has been assigned to get him to the jail or the prison. And he gets shot, but only the shoulder, but Cyborg was too close. Next time. This is a badass panel, this first panel. Look at that, how he's his legs are kind of, you know what I'm saying. His legs are just in right place to stand on top of that limb. So, totally awesome. Parker Brothers games. And what's weird is there's a Spider-Man ad in a DC book. But I guess they got stuff to sell. That costume, by the way, is one of my all-time favorite costumes, designed by George Perez, because the first appearance of Vigilante was New Teen Titans Annual #2. And so we flash back a little bit, and he has two people to assist him in his war on crime. There's a woman and a younger guy, and Adrian, the police, picked up Stryker. Yahoo! This time we got him. I can't wait. Click, click. So, Pollard just does fantastic imagery. Man, I'd love to see him doing some more stuff today, but I don't know what, I don't know if he's retired or what. But it's beautiful. Power Lords. This reminds me how pitiful is this toy. He spins his torso around where he has a normal face, and that's it. Before that, we had Transformers like the previous year, and we had, I think, Master Universe of the Universe. But I'm like, wow, that's such a... Who approved that? This guy can twist 180 degrees. So, let's flash back again to Cyborg trying to save this guy. What I like here, this is a great trick if you can pull it off. He's got this gun, and it looks like he's shooting right at him here, but that's an illusion. It's like he's shooting, and then you can imagine that he might be in a slightly different position. So it's not like he's, not like his feet are here right by his arm. It's a great trick when it's done right. So he takes a big old piece of tree, and he goes to rescue him, and they're having this big argument. He deserves to die, and Cyborg's like, no, we don't do that. He's like, none of us are that perfect. And he's talking about the criminal he's stopping. And, Vigilante makes some cheap shots on the exposed side of Cyborg's face. Great poses. Just a lot of action. But there's storytelling along with the action. You're hearing the arguments for and against. And, man, nice Kirby-inspired pose. So many artists have fallen in love with that kind of pose because Kirby did it so effectively. And I think it was early in the... Kirby started doing that, I think, when his solo stories got revived in Tales of Suspense. There was an issue, I think, with, I don't know, a bunch of guys. And bappity-bappity-bap. Here, how about this for detail? On the back of Vigilante are the two spots where the nunchucks were. That's pretty cool. Very cool. And then there's classic Joe Kubert. So he finds that's Adrian Chase. It's like, explains his whole story. And this is a real cheap shot. I'm not big on, guys getting hit in the balls. I just don't know. If I was a superhero, I would wear a cup like a football player does, or a baseball player even. It's like, that just makes perfect sense. But Stryker, and he shot this guy. There was like this ma and pa that he tried to rescue. He's like, no, you're not coming in here and threatening me, my missus. This is my house. You can't just... And that's a really great pose. Takes him down. He's like, you give me no choice. I said, stay back. And he ended up shooting Cyborg in the shoulder. Meanwhile, this guy here is talking into a tape recorder that was left by Vigilante, and Robin says tape recordings aren't legal evidence, but they might lead the police to the evidence they could use. I'd say Stryker's going to serve more than just 1 year. And JJ is this guy who's working with Vigilante. He goes, Adrian, am I glad to see you? Don't be so certain I didn't kill Stryker. And he goes, what do you mean? I wanted him dead. I thought you did too. That's what the Vigilante's all about. He says, if I killed Stryker, it would have just been in cold blood. I'm not a killer. I can't let myself become one. Etc., etc. Killing is in the way. And you forgive me? I have to. It's so easy wishing someone you hate were dead, but doing it yourself is something else altogether. Thanks, Adrian, for saving us both. And Adrian sent a card to get well soon for Cyborg. My big problem, there is no, it's not established why this is so personal to this guy. I mean, he's clicking his heels in the second page, but there's no specific why this guy would be so, he would want revenge on one specific guy. So, and also the previous issue, which was issue 2, for a while, Adrian Chase gave up being Vigilante because he made a mistake. He brutally beat up this one guy who was wrongfully accused of murder. So then he rethought his how he was going to operate. But I don't know why this guy's so personal about it. You know, it's so easy wishing someone you hate were dead. Why does he hate him? So that's the flaw right there. So Power Lords, I can go back and forth. Now, I got this out of the dollar bin because I remember buying the first issue of this and it's pure trash. It's but issue 9, it's the last issue, double sized. And what was really obnoxious about the Secret Wars 2 was the artwork was horrible, but it was rushed because when Secret Wars 2 came out, every frigging comic book, every Marvel book had a crossover with it. I mean, it just, and some people like John Byrne and even Daredevil, some of them actually did pretty good, but there were other ones. I mean, at this time I was sick of the Beyonder. I mean, like, you had the original Secret Wars, and it was sort of interesting to see the Beyonder take human form. He used Captain America's body. He got his hair changed, and he was learning about the human experience. That's what I got from the first issue, but the rest I know are from the crossovers of the other books that I was buying anyway. So, you know, A Time to Die. So it is Shooter, Al Milgrom, Steve Lee Aloha, and the art is rushed, and it's also very tiny. It's like there's a lot of words and a lot of tiny artwork. But you know what? It was a big payday for both of them. You know, I mean, this isn't the usual Steve Lee Aloha type project, but you know, hey, you know, he probably did they probably both did, and it's like, God bless him. See, you got all these little teeny tiny characters because you have everybody there. You have a lot more characters than you did in the first Secret Wars, which they kind of handpicked some of the characters. Cap's gonna star in a Broadway show. No. So, see how like everybody is like a mid-range shot? So, Beyonder goes to his little secret place, and he's gonna record himself whining. And he says he's omnipotent, and he says my imagination and reality are virtually indistinguishable. All evidence except me, all existence except me might as well be a figment of my imagination. And it actually, I hate to admit it, it's pretty interesting. He wants to make himself immortal where his every thought doesn't produce something. You know, he wants struggle, a sense of struggle. That's what he's missing. So he creates this gadget and goes in it. New Mutants, long story. And he comes out in the birthing process. And he's like, hey, I never dreamed it would be like this. And He goes, with near insane desperation, he plunges his hands into this semi-permeable membrane at the base of the vessel, and he rejoices to the return of his omnipotence. He just was shocked. So you got Molecule Man and his girlfriend Volcana. So he Beyonder tries it again, and this time I can't lift this thing no matter how I try. I have limits. And he runs around, and it's no day at the beach. Maybe next time I'll. And Mephisto comes, all these like Kirby-esque monsters. Now that's a good panel there because it's not teeny tiny figures. Have some maggots. Ooh. Bleh. And he becomes Beyonder again. And all this crap happens. It was a bit of a slog. A double-sized slog at that. And then Molecule Man and Beyonder have it out because Molecule Man's one of the most powerful people in the universe. And let's see. I always like when Reed forms a blockade of himself. So, Beyonder Baby leaves. I like all the drop shadows here. And it's like, Dad, the baby's dead. Oh, Reed. And what happens is, well, the Beyonder forms another Big Bang where it evolves everything. Yeah, kind of predictable, but I didn't hate it. You know, it was kind of interesting. I mean, I don't know if it should have been a double-size issue, but I really hate saying I like this issue of Secret Wars too, because man, that was really when Marvel jumped the shark big time. So let's clean our brains out with something decent. Issue 199 of Justice League of America, beautiful Perez cover, and you can't really tell, but what's cool is like the yellow background. It almost looks like a matte color, and then the superheroes seem to be a little shiny. It's really hard. I mean, I don't know if it's showing up on the camera, but it's really kind of cool. And it may be an optical illusion, you know, from the colors contrast. So Don Heck's on board, and you know, this is great stuff because Brett Breeding is inking him, and he's really modernizing Don Heck's work for superhero stuff at the time. I mean, Brett was just starting out. I think he was an assistant to Bob Layton because he has very similar style in a lot of ways. So there's the Lord of Time. But I mean, if I showed you this, you really wouldn't think it was Don Heck. And Don's doing some fantastic storytelling. And, you know, a purist might say, oh, well, it's not pure Don Heck. But if he's doing superheroes, if he could have done Jonah Hex for a while, that would have been really cool. But if he's doing superheroes, it's got to be all shiny like that. Yeah. He's a little too clean, but that's all right. But I mean, it's just such a drastic change for the better, in my opinion. And Dawn could always tell a good story. You know, like that, you know. Now that looks like Don Heck, but it also looks more modern, superhero-ish. So I really enjoyed this story. There's a one done in one, and now, Incredible Hulk: The Day the Earth Turned Green. So this was a color hold that was done on a separate overlay and printed separately, so to get that effect. But it's really well done because Rich Buckler comes back. I think it's like one of his last real big jobs at Marvel. So, oh, that's Neil Adams' ad, by the way. the faces. And he's being inked by Joe Sinnott, and there's no swipes in here. And as I said before, Buckler would do swipes on, say, like Thor and Fantastic Four, and that, but he could also just draw, and he was doing all kinds of new stuff there. Love when the shirts rip. And that first panel, though, it's like a tribute to an issue with the leader from Tales to Astonish. But, wow. And that's another curvy pose. But the book's not indebted to it. So, this is water? Yeah, we're having a toast. Drink up. And it's gamma irradiated water. And it's making people sick. I can't remember why, but, that wacky leader, he doesn't have to have a real reason. And here's Spider-Man. Nice splash page there. Need a blood sample. Bug Eyes want Hulk's blood. Really, really well done. And Spider-Man's getting weak too. And here come the Avengers. Nice. I love that lineup. And Hank gets, I don't feel so good. So they get ready to leave. Because Beast, what in blazes are you doing in there? Just slaking my thirst, oh man of metal. No time for Perrier, so plain old tap water will have to do. Whoop. Big mistake. Big mistake. So, that is so cool. And what I like is, this is like the period where Iron Man's getting more, he's getting more respect. He's not getting knocked around by B grade, C grade villains, Hulk used to be an Avenger himself. Had he remained, what power he could have added to his ranks. What's that make Thor and me, Cap? Chop liver? So they get going, and I love that bottom panel with the Vision. And then I don't feel so good. Turns her into a leader. And Wonder Man with the shades. Oh man, I love that. Leader's secret is in the water. Hang on a second. Yeah, baby. And they fight those rubbery humanoid fellas. Boom, bada boom, bada boom. And really nice ending there. And at the end, you get one of this looks. I don't know who did this pinup. To be honest, I think it's Sal Buscema because that looks very Sal Buscema, but that figure does not. So I don't know who did that, and who knows. But the backup here is Doc Samson, Mary Jo Duffy, who really made Power Man and Iron Fist work. Did a fantastic job on it. Frank Miller, a young Frank Miller, pencils and ink by Steve Mitchell. And it's really like a 5-page story with Eunice the Untouchable. And there's a huge Marvel Universe by Frank Miller hardcover omnibus that I recommend because it has even that in there. Just everything he's done with the Marvel Universe. So anyway, I hope you like this. And I will talk to you later. Bye.